As the threat of socialism becomes more eminent in the US, I feel it's necessary for me to tell you a couple of things that I hear all the time. And I hear folks talking about economic equality and how socialism is a lot better. And let me tell you something, that is not even close to the truth. Now, before we jump into today's video, I would like to ask you for a favor. If you don't mind, make sure that you like these videos. Make sure that you share these videos. Whatever platform you have, it's okay. We need to spread the message. We need to spread the message. And honestly, YouTube is not very friendly when it comes to prepper channels. We are constantly put to the bottom of the barrel. We don't get the notifications, even if we put the notifications on, and we don't get recommended at all. So nonetheless, please, if you don't mind, share these videos. We definitely appreciate that. And in regards to the topic, I mean, you hear, especially young folks, well, I'm not going to say especially, but the majority of people are saying that, yeah, no, socialism is a lot better, is, you know, the younger generations, because quite frankly, they just don't know any better. And ignorance does play a big part on this narrative that they want to push. And of course, you're going to hear somebody saying, like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, first of all, I was born and raised in a socialist country. I was born and raised in Cuba. So that actually gives me a lot of insight that a lot of people don't have. I was there when the Soviet Union collapsed. I know how it is because I lived through it, and I didn't read on the books. I can pass on history as it was as it was lived by me. So yeah, I don't want to hear none of that BS of people saying, "Now you don't know what you're talking about." Well, I beg the difference. I beg that you are the person who does not know what you're talking about. And socialism has not worked. The many times that I had tried to implement it, well, what makes you think it's going to work here in the U.S.? Nonetheless, like I said before, they do talk about economic equality and whatnot, and they say that, well, socialism aims to reduce economic inequality by advocating for a collective and state ownership of key industries. Well, let me tell you something, that is true. They do own everything. In Cuba, all industries are owned by the government. However, that plays a key role because they think they have workers' rights, and they think that socialism is big on unions. Well, there's no such thing as unions in Cuba. Zero. Because your employer is the government, they can dictate how much you're going to get paid. There's no benefits, to tell you the truth. You get vacation time. That is true. But you also get paid very low. And I was going to use a foul language, but I'm going to keep it, you know, so you can share this with your kids when they say socialism is good. No, they don't pay you at all. Here's the thing. They tell you too that the socialism guarantee basic needs. In Cuba, you have a ration book. And a lot of people, and I was actually discussing this with somebody before, a lot of people before the Soviet Union collapsed, they had this that as a reserve, well, this is just the basic needs that we're gonna have, you know, like rice, beans, eggs, you know, whatever the quota you get for the month. But people didn't depend on it so much. Now, once the Soviet Union collapsed and Cuba didn't have enough things coming in, well, things got a lot tighter, and now people depend almost 100% on that ration book, meaning that if you don't get it through there, well, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money in the black market. And the idea that socialism does not equal social or does not equal a black market, well, that's ludicrous, to tell you the truth. I will say that Cuba has a huge black market because everything, if you want anything at all, you need to get it through the black market because there really isn't nothing on the stores if you pay with the currency, the pesos, which is the Cuban currency. You can go to the dollar stores, but, well, who has dollars? Unless you have a family member who lives overseas and send you money, you don't have anything. So the whole idea of basic needs and the whole idea of workers' right, I'm telling you that right now, no. In fact, there's very little safety when it comes to workers in Cuba. Very little safety. So don't believe what they say. They also call for, and I'm kind of reading off, so I won't lose track of what I'm trying to say. Democratic participation. This actually, it's funny. Essentially, you vote for whoever you want. Well, if that is the case, why was Castro in power for so many years? You don't vote for who you want. There is no democracy in a socialist country. There isn't. They put somebody in there, and that person put himself in there, in the case of Castro, and they never move out of power. Never. Until they decide, well, I'm going to retire and I'm going to leave now my brother in charge. The idea of democracy. Listen, when you have 51% telling the other 49% of people what to do, and that 49% are essentially slaves of the 51%, that is a recipe for disaster. In Cuba, that's the way it goes. Those in power in the government tell the rest of the people what to do, how to do it, when to do it, how to dress, what to eat, when to sleep. Yes, for a very long time, being a gay person in Cuba was holy bejesus. This is no lie. I'm telling you this how it is, so you can understand how socialism actually works. You had no freedom of speech. You have no freedom of religion. And if you are, back in the day, I don't know how it is nowadays. I think things have changed a little bit. But if you were gay, it was okay for the police to beat you to an inch of your life and leave you on the streets. This is no lie. I'm telling you, this is truth. Now, social welfare. Socialism often emphasizes to provide social services such as healthcare, education, and housing and basic rights for all citizens. Well, let me put it like this. It is true that you don't pay taxes in your house in Cuba. It is true. It is true that you go to the hospital and you don't pay anything. It is true that you do not initially pay for education. It is true. However, you don't pay for education, but once you finish, you have to work for the government. And depending on your career, I think a doctor is like 5 years, getting paid almost nothing, and you can't even leave the country if you want to. You have to pay back the government, so education is not free. When they say that social services are free, they're not, because they are taking it already. That's why you get so little income what you get paid. Very little. They take money away from that, in that consideration. So it's a hidden tax that you don't see it because it's not even a tax. They just take it away and that's it. Now, when they're talking about healthcare, yes, you don't pay at the hospital, but there's nothing in the hospital. You have to take your own bed sheets. You have to take your pillow. Sometimes you even have to take your mattress because there's none. There's no water to bathe. Your family have to go in with a bucket of water to bathe you. There's no nurses, and the nurses that are there essentially, and not all of them, I'm not going to generalize, but they are so overworked and they're just looking to steal whatever comes in medicine so they can sell it in the black market because they have to survive. If you want medicine, you have to procure that medicine elsewhere, and bring it into the hospital, because doctors, they can prescribe you the medication, but there's no medication in the hospital. So you have to go buy it elsewhere or ask somebody who lives, again, overseas to give you, to send you the medicine. So that whole idea that everything is free, it is not free at all. Nothing in this life is free. And it bothers me and it blows my mind away when here in the US, when there is so many opportunities for everybody to be better, you see folks saying like, well, the struggle, I can't do this because I can't do that. You putting limitations on yourself. You are the one who's doing that, not anybody else. If you get up every day and what you do is drink, well, whose fault is that? It's your fault. If you get up every day and all you do is popping pills, whose fault is that? It's your fault. If you refuse to work and do better for yourself because you make bad choices in life, and whatever choices you made, it is your fault. In Cuba or in a socialist country, socialism doesn't hold individuals responsible. It's the collective. We are all equal. That is not true. Not everybody's equal in a socialist country. It is not equality. I'm telling you this right now. Those in government hold the power. Those in government eat good, sleep good, and guess what? They do whatever they want without repercussions. Those in the bottom, the citizenship, don't have good food, don't sleep well because the power goes out all the time. They barely have water to bathe because the water actually gets cut off 2, maybe 3 times a day. And guess what? Whatever they can take, they're going to take it. I mentioned housing before, and that is true. You don't pay taxes in houses. But guess what? If the government, let's say that you have this house right here, and they want to do a baseball field, and they want to take your house, they're going to take it. No permission. They don't care. No. They're going to take you, grab you, and throw you in a building. In a building 20 stories high. Now you went from a suburban house with your backyard that you can have chickens and whatnot to a building, at best with a balcony. And now you have 50 families around you. There's nothing you can do. Nothing that you can do. My grandfather's house had a huge jar. Huge. Well, the government decided that they had a plot behind my grandfather's house. They took half of his yard. Half. No compensation whatsoever. They took half and they built a baseball field in there. Yep. Just like that. At the end of the day, my grandfather had to move from there. A house that he purchased with his hard-earned money. No compensation from the government for taking half of his property. They don't care. But he have to move because baseball balls keep falling on his roof and keep breaking his roof. So he's like, I had enough. I got to move from here. Do you think they care? They didn't care at all. A lot of people, well, why didn't they build fences around? They don't have to do anything. They can do whatever heck they want. That is socialism for you. I'm telling you, that is the way it is. When you hear kids here say, equality, we got to tax the rich, we got to give to the poor. Let me tell you something. And this is something that I hear often. Often, we got to tax the rich and we got to give to the poor because the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poor. Well, that is true. But at the same time, I don't see poor people creating jobs. I do see poor people try to get rich. I do see rich people creating jobs. You cannot take from somebody who has nothing. But if you continue to take and take from people who have money and who have the possibility of creating jobs, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to get their money and they're going to go elsewhere. I think that's what they have been doing for years now. They go elsewhere. And guess what? They go to other countries, they put their companies in there, they send it to us, and guess who gets stuck? The poor person. Because now that poor person don't have a job, don't have insurance, don't have an income, and have to pay even more. Have to pay even more on those things that they fought so hard. You see, because the rich people were the ones at fault. Listen, not everybody is good, not everybody is bad, but we have to understand, unless we live in heaven and everybody is right there, there's always going to be inequality. Always. No matter what. I don't see rich people trying to get poor. I do see poor people trying to get rich. But when you hear people saying, we got to take more from this group and give it to this other group, well, how is that different than those of us who strongly believe in the 2A when they want to take our rights away because they don't want us to defend ourselves? There's no difference. When Castro took over, he took everything away from everybody. Everything. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter back then if you were ultra rich or just had 20 acres of land. He took everything. And the government was the one in charge to divide it equally. What happened is now Cuba is one of the poorest countries in the world. When once upon a time, before Castro took over, Cuba and the U.S., the economy was right there. People were moving from the U.S. to go live in Cuba. This is no BS. Look at your history. Look at your history, and you will see that I am right. When socialism took over, it destroyed a beautiful country. That's why it is the way it is today. If socialism takes over here, well, the greatest country and once upon a time will become the new Cuba. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like always, rock on, prep on, and don't let this country become a socialist country. Bye-bye, everybody.